Most people with chronic pain or illness stop using their body. We fear that running, moving, exercising, lifting will make our symptoms worse. But most chronic pain and symptoms are actually neuroplastic, meaning your body is completely healthy and capable, and your brain has just learned mistaken associations. It started to associate movements as dangerous, and as a result, will trigger your chronic symptoms while you're doing that movement. Now, the good news is you can unlearn these associations. So in this video, I'm going to explain how you can use graded exposure while creating psychological safety. And by doing this repetitively, you can start to move your body again without pain or symptoms. This is the same process that I used to be able to walk, run, lift weights, and move my body the way that I want to without having chronic pain. Create beliefs that your body is healthy and capable. When we have debilitating chronic pain and chronic symptoms, we develop this strong belief that our body is permanently damaged or diseased in some way, and we are always going to have our symptoms. But most chronic symptoms are neuroplastic, meaning that you're actually completely safe. Your body's completely okay. Your body's capable of doing almost anything. What's occurring is the danger level in your brain has just risen too high. Now, a lot of us, when we have chronic pain and symptoms, we just believe our body's not capable of doing anything. And this makes sense because a lot of us have the experience that we move a certain way and it triggers our pain or symptom. Now, what your brain is really good at doing is making associations. I tell people your brain is an association making machine. It starts to associate a certain condition with a certain outcome. So I'll give you an example. It starts to associate bending equaling back pain. But the thing is when symptoms are neuroplastic, the bending isn't actually damaging your body or changing anything in your body causing pain. What's happened is a mistaken association. Your brain actually starts to make a lot of errors. So it starts to associate bending equals danger. And because it views the bending as dangerous or threatening, it clicks on pain. Now, this process can happen with almost any condition. I've seen even wild ones take place. So it can be positions, movements, time of day, days of the week, weather, smells, sounds, certain environments, certain foods. It can be even associated with seeing certain people. So all these conditions, your brain can start to make errors and click on pain. Now, I do want to mention this process can happen with conditions besides chronic pain. So it can happen with chronic fatigue. It can happen with long COVID symptoms, chronic dizziness, or really any chronic symptom. Luckily, using a brain and nervous system approach, we can unlearn these associations and start to be able to move our body without having pain or symptoms. This is possible. I really want people to know that. When your symptoms are neuroplastic, this is possible. But we need to develop the belief that our body is healthy and capable. We need to really understand that. So as I was going to start to approach movements, I was consistently reminding myself, okay, walking doesn't equal back pain for me. It's just a mistaken association. I'm actually safe to be doing this. My body is fully capable and healthy. And so I would repetitively be telling myself this as I started to approach the movements. Graded exposure with psychological safety. This is the main event. This step you cannot skip. Through graded exposure, we are showing our brain by approaching the movement, position, or activity that we are safe. We're showing our brain by starting to approach these things that our body is healthy and capable. I know this is really scary. Believe me, I was terrified when I started to do this, but it's a very essential step. So as I started to learn, okay, my pain's neuroplastic, meaning my body's healthy and capable, and I started to learn these are mistaken dissociations, I got up the courage to start approaching movement. So an early on one that I started with was lifting my arms over my head, because anything past this, I would get sharp pains in my shoulders and nerve pain going down into my fingertips. But I got up the courage to start. So I started with no weight and just, 4 or 5 repetitions a couple times a day. That's all I was doing. And eventually I got full range of motion where I could lift my arms. This led to me doing this with soup cans in my house. I got some soup cans and would practice, and eventually I could do multiple sets. Then I went to the gym. I started with like 2.5 to 5 pounds, repetitively building up repetitions. Then I was able to finally start to do this with heavier and heavier weight. So this is the graded exposure part where I was approaching the movements. And as I did this, it's really important that you need to create psychological safety. So the graded exposure is only one part of this. You also need to create safety in your brain and nervous system while doing the movements. So I would do embodiment practices. So embodiment practices is when I am somatically exploring the pain or tension that I felt in my arms as I did the movements. I also would somatically explore my emotional response and my nervous system response. So you have this somatic awareness of your body, of your symptoms and emotions as you're doing the repetitions of movements. And then I also used safety signals to create safety with the pain or dysregulation that was occurring. So for myself, I did a lot of breath work, sometimes present moment sensing like sight, sounds, touch. Sometimes it could be the somatic movement itself, like noticing what feels pleasant. Or you could just attend to something that feels more pleasant and neutral in your body for a brief period. You could also do some visualization. So sometimes when I was at the gym in between sets of weights, I would be sitting and visualizing a calming person, place, or animal. So you're doing this embodiment practice while you're actually doing the movements. You're doing the movements, you're exploring the sensations within, and you're using safety signals to create safety. And this is the formula. This is the formula where I've seen people go from bedbound to being able to fully move. This was the formula where I was able to all of a sudden go to the gym 5 days a week and lift pretty heavy weights. So this is possible, but we just need to find our starting place and be honest about your starting place, because you don't want to start too big, but you also don't want to start too small. I've seen people do this way too slowly, and it's going to take them 100 years. But I've also seen people do this way too quickly and get a lot of flares. So just be realistic about where your starting place is at. And when you're determining your starting place, you want to think that what is the movement I can do that's going to cause mild to moderate pain? That's what we're aiming for. Not no pain, because that's going to be too slow, but what's the movement that I could do every single day that's going to cause mild to moderate pain? So that's kind of your baseline, and then you would gradually increase over time from there. Expect pain and symptoms. Even if you do the graded exposure with psychological safety process perfectly, you will get some symptoms as you do it. This is very normal. Your brain has been viewing these movements as threatening, so the pain and symptoms will take place. Again, don't do it so fast that you're having repetitive flares every single day, but having some bumpiness as you do the graded exposure is very, very normal. Where I see people go wrong is this. Let's say someone's going to start to approach walking. So they start with 10 minutes a day. It's a good goal. And they do it for 3 days and they have mild pain. It's going pretty well. And then on the 4th day, their pain gets up to like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. And then they get scared and they take 3 weeks off. If you do this way, where you take 200 steps back every time you get moderate or moderate level pain or even a pain flare, it's going to take you forever. So yes, we want to minimize pain flares, but some pain flares are normal. So it's okay if you have a pain flare during this process to take a few days off, but once it subsides, get back at it, because we need to understand that pain and symptoms during this process is normal. And what we're actually doing is just trying to create safety, psychological safety with the pain and symptoms as we're moving our body. That's the goal. The goal isn't for you to go from walking to 5 minutes to running a marathon with never having pain. If that's the goal, you're going to never get there. It's normal to have bumpiness. And so the goal needs to be, as I'm increasing my walking, can I create safety with the pain and symptoms? Can I create safety with the dysregulation? So don't get spooked too much if this causes pain or symptoms. Now, I do want to say, make sure you check in with your physician that you're safe to be doing these movements. But if you give the go ahead, we need to start to do the graded exposure with psychological safety, but at the same time, expect some pain and symptoms as we do this. Consistency is key. Be consistent. This is my partner Anne's favorite thing to tell her clients. You need to be consistent with the graded exposure work. If you want to unlearn associations, we need to be very consistent over time. What I'll see people do is they'll approach something once. Let's say they walk for 10 minutes and then they wait another week or 2 weeks before they get up the courage to do it again. And again, don't judge yourself for this. I did this for a period of time. When we're approaching a condition that has repetitively triggered our symptoms, that's scary. I totally get that. But if you're only doing, the graded exposure once a week or once every 2 weeks, it's not going to be enough new experience to show your brain, hey, my body's safe, and to have you learn to do the movement or position without symptoms. So when I was doing the graded exposure work, I started with like walking briefly and lifting my arms. I also practiced sitting on couches because that was a big trigger. But as I was practicing these things, I would do it once or twice a day. And I did it for about 5 months building up. And by the end, I was at the gym, I was running, I was doing everything that I possibly wanted to do. So it is possible, but you need to be very consistent. Now, I want to say again, so it's clear, if you have a flare, it's okay to take a few days off, but being very consistent with the movement gives your brain all these new experiences where it starts to interpret accurately that the movement or the condition is actually safe for you to be doing. So remember to be consistent. Your mindset matters. Where I see people go wrong with this whole process that I've outlined is they make approaching a movement or condition so serious. They make it really serious. They make it really intense. They put all this pressure on themselves. Again, understanding that as you're approaching these conditions to unlearn this association, the goal is safety. The goal isn't to do it without pain or symptom. The goal is how much safety can I create in my brain and nervous system as I'm starting to approach these things. And so if you make this process really serious, really intense, you're critical of yourself the whole time, you're just sending danger signals to your brain repetitively as you're doing it. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make. So you want to really make this process as light and pleasant as possible. Again, I know that this is scary, but we want to move in this direction. Because if you make it light and pleasant, naturally, now you're sending your brain safety signals instead of danger signals. So when I was doing this, I would listen to a fun, laid-back playlist. I would do the graded exposure like walking with a friend and joking around. When I was practicing sitting on couches, I would watch funny, lighthearted TV shows. And I would also focus on all the pleasantness that was created by doing the movement or by relaxing on the couch. So I was showing my brain, hey, we're actually safe. We're okay to be doing this. So make this process playful. Go easy and light. Don't set some big goal and be all pressureful. Make it fun. Be jokey and silly. So do all of these different things because your mindset as you do this work matters more than doing the graded exposure perfectly. I would rather a client that I'm working with have their mindset perfect than do the graded exposure perfectly because everything is going to fall into place if you can really start to cultivate that mindset. So I hope this video was helpful on how you can start moving your body again without pain and symptoms. Doing this work with clients and with people in my digital course, I get really excited about this because, yeah, we have the big goal in mind of I want to be pain-free. I want to be fatigue-free. And that's great. That's a great goal that we want to work towards long term. But the reason we're doing that is so that you can fully move your body, use your body however you want, and live this very full, vibrant life. And the process that I just explained in this video is how you work towards doing that. So please put your questions, comments down below, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.